In all my years of math tutoring, I have noticed high schoolers lacking skill, lacking mastery in a few key essential math skills. So in this video, I want to give you my top 6 basic essential math skills that high schoolers must master to be successful in math. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter whether you're in algebra or geometry, advanced algebra, whatever it is. Now, some of these skills are going to be a little bit more important in one math over the other, but the main point is you want to understand these topics, these skills to be successful in math. So let's go ahead and get to it. Skill number 1 is integers. Now, this is probably the biggest one of them all. If you know what an integer is, you know that an integer basically is like a whole number, positive or negative. And one of the biggest reasons that students in high school lose points is because of integers, and more specifically because they forget what to do with the negative sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few math problems up here using integers so we can review these skills. Say that you have 2 plus 3. Easy enough. That's what, 5. How about 2 minus 3? Now, you can look at this a couple of different ways to make sure that you're following how integers work. You can either imagine a number line like this. You draw a number line. Let's say you have okay, 2 minus 3. So we start at positive 2, and then we subtract 3, which means that we go 3 to the left. Your right, my left. So you go 1, 2, 3, minus 1, minus 1, minus 1. And so 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So you can look at it that way. Or you can do it the other way that people suggest, which is to, do the biggest number minus the smallest number, so 3 minus 2, and then take the sign of the larger one. So that's 3 minus 2 is 1, and the larger number is 3, and the sign on that is negative, so the answer is negative 1. This is how it works with addition and subtraction. How about multiplication? Remember, if you have 2 times 3, that's going to be a positive 6. If you have 2 times negative 3, that's going to be a negative 6, because a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. If you have negative 2 times negative 3, that's going to be positive 6, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And that's really all the combinations there are, right? So this is, and it works the same way with division. A positive and a positive make a positive, positive and a negative make a negative, negative and a negative make a positive. You have to remember these skills. This is so much of a place where people get dinged for points because they forget how these negatives work. Master integers. Skill number 2 is exponent rules. Very important. Sometimes we look at exponents on numbers and especially on variables and we get scared, but it's not really that hard. Okay? Just remember these rules. All right? Whether you're dealing with a number or a variable. First of all, if you have a number to a power times the same base number to a power, you add the exponents. If you have a number to a power being divided by a same base number to a power, you subtract the exponents, okay? If you have a number to a power being raised to a power, you multiply the exponents. So that's a to the m times n. What about if you have a number raised to a rational power, like a fractional power? So a to the, I'll say m over n. So what that is the nth root of a to the m power. So that top number is the power that you raise the base number to. And then the bottom number is the index of the radical, okay? The index of this little root looking thing, okay? All right, what else? What if, and all you gotta do is just apply these rules. What if you have a base number to a negative power? That doesn't make the whole thing negative. All that means is, or it's the same as rather, 1 over that same base number to the positive version of that power. Let me just make up something. Let's say we have 9x squared y to the third over 3x y to the fifth. And we want to simplify that. Now, first thing is you have to like apply these rules to each variable, each number separately. So now the number 9 can be divided by 3. 9 can't be divided by any of these because we don't know what they are. They're variables. 9 divided by 3 is 3. X squared divided by x, that's x to the 2 minus 1. That is just x. Y to the 3 divided by y to the fifth is y to the 3 minus 5, which is y to the negative 2. Okay? Or if you write it in the denominator, it is y squared. Okay? So that's a way of applying a couple of rules there at once. So the main thing is remember your rules and apply your rules. All right? Skill number 3 is combining like terms. Now, I see this a lot. I see it a lot more than I would like to. Students are, they have these expressions or these equations that they're asked to simplify or something like that. And what they do is they try to add or subtract things that are not like terms. Now this applies to addition and subtraction specifically. So say, for example, you have 2x plus 3 plus 3x. Actually, let's start with just this. So sometimes people just want to do like this. You cannot do that. This does not work. This is incorrect. Like terms. What is a like term though? All a like term is, so if you say, for example, 2x, a term that would be a like term would be another term that has a variable to the same power. In other words, x to the first power. So like, for example, if I put back in what I had before, if you look at this, 2x and 3x are like terms, which means you can combine those, and you just combine them by adding the coefficient and keeping, the variable as is. So this would simplify to 5x plus 3. And that's the furthest you can go with that. Now, 3 in this case had no like terms. It had none. So you can't combine it with anything. Now technically 3 has a variable there, but it's to the 0 power. Anything to the 0, it has an x there, but it's to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is just 1. So that's why it's just 3 there, if that makes sense. But you cannot combine it with anything else unless there were another number here. But you could combine it with that, and that would simplify to 5x plus 4. Combining like terms. Keep in mind, if we had x squared here, you can't combine x squared with anything here. There is no other term here that has an x squared in it. So all you would have done here is bring that down, okay? Like terms are terms that have the same variable to the same power. Sometimes it can be two variables, like 3xy plus 4xy is 7xy. You see what I'm saying? But that is so important to learn. And sometimes people have this tendency, just they see numbers and they add them, but they don't really pay attention to the fact that they're not like terms. I can't emphasize that enough. Skill number 4, perhaps the most feared math subject in general, word problems. People are scared of word problems. But what I'm here to tell you today is that word problems really are not that bad if you understand the concept of math signal words, or signal words, however you want to call them. All signal words are when you read a word problem, you need to look for certain words that mean certain things, specifically like certain operations. Okay, so like for example, if you the following words are examples of signal words in a word problem that mean addition. Okay, so like for example, sum, plus, whatever, more than. Words like that. And there's others as well. But these mean you are adding, okay? When it comes to subtraction, you have minus, you have less than, and different words like that. So minus, less than, let me see, difference is another one. If you look for these types of words in a word problem, you'll notice what it's saying. Like if it says the difference between 2 and 3, that literally means 2 minus 3. The order of the numbers matters. Multiplication. You have words like product. You have times. Let me see what else. These are really going to be your main ones here. Yeah. And then division, you'll have words in there like, so like for example, it says, well, of course, literally the word divided or divide. You'll have words like per. You have words like sometimes each. For example, if you say there were 5 groups in the class and each group had you had a group of 20 students in the class and the group and I'm sorry, you had 20 students in the class and they were organized into groups of 5 each. Okay, so 20 divided by 5, that means you had 4 groups. Okay, so that's a case where each is division. Okay, then you'll have like this one, which is greater than. This one, which is less than. And remember, if you want greater than or equal to, you just put a little equals dash underneath there. But word problems can be and this is a very, very quick, rudimentary explanation. I could go a lot more in depth, and I believe one day. But look for the signal words. If you look for and you learn signal words for word problems, they become very easy. And I give you a hint. It's very important when it comes to the SAT. You heard it from me. Skill number 5 is rounding. Now I know, elementary school skill, but I still see high schoolers who are a little shaky on this. So let's review how to round. Let's say, for example, well, let's just speak generally. If you are rounding a number, well, we'll do it this way. I'll give an example. If you're rounding the following number, and they say round to nearest 10. Here's what that means. And this is what it always means in general. When people say round to a certain place value, what they mean is look at the previous. So the first step is to look at the previous. Place value, specifically to the right. To the right. So if this is the tens place, we're going to look at this number that's immediately to the right of it. Remember, if it is 5 and up, you want to go up 1. You want to go up 1 with the value that they said to round. If it is under 5, go down by no. Stay the same. And then the digit to the right goes to 0. So for example, 125 rounded to the nearest 10 is 130. Okay? Whereas 123 actually rounds to 120. Because that 3, when you look immediately to the right, that 3 is under 5. And so that means you keep this the same and this just goes to 0. That is so important to understand. So important to understand, definitely an elementary school skill, but I am not biased to explaining this because sometimes people haven't covered or looked at it again in such a long time. They start to forget it. So here is your very, very quick refresher. Don't forget how to round. And it's the same with any place value, whether you say round to the nearest 100, that means you need to look at the nearest 10 place. If they say round to the nearest 100th, which is, so let's do that. So 0.0358. Round that to the nearest hundredths. This is the tenths. This is the hundredths place. So we're going to look immediately to the right because that's greater than 5. This rounds up to 0.04. Okay, that's to the nearest hundredths place. You see what I'm saying? Very, very important. And this is useful for later maths. It is. Now, again, this is going to be a very, very quick review, but there are a lot of people, whenever they look at an equation for a line, for example, with X's and Y's in it, they don't know what that means. They don't know how to put that on an XY graph. So like, say, for example, we have Y equals 3X minus 2. You see, I'm working with a lot of 2's and 3's today. I'm just choosing to do that. And we want to graph that. So I could talk about the fact that this is what you would call your y-intercept, the 2 right here. I could talk about stuff like that. But instead, I am going to help you to know how the X's and Y's go. So this is your X-axis. This is your Y-axis. Y equals 3X minus 2 is some straight line that it's going to go up some kind of way. Okay? Now, every point on the graphed line has an X and a Y associated with it. Every single point. X is known as your input value. That's the value that you choose to put in. Y is what value comes out as a result of the X that you put in. So this is what helps you to know how to graph a line. Say, for example, so this is what you typically want to do. Like I said, it gets a little bit more complex than this, but I want to show you how to create an X, Y chart so you can know how to plot points. So say, for example, we wanted to plug in -1. You literally plug -1 into the equation and you see what your output is going to be. Output is the resulting Y value. So you have Y equals 3 times -1 minus 2. So Y is -3 minus 2, or in other words, Y is -5. So this is a point. -1, -5. That is literally a point on the line. So we're going to graph that. That ends up being right here. So -1, -5. Here, let me write that -5 on the other side. So it's right here. Okay. Let's plug in 0. Okay. So y is going to be equal to 3x, x in this case is 0, minus 2. So 3 times 0 is 0, so y is just equal to -2. This is another point on the line, 0, -2. So you go 0 in the x direction, which means you stay here, then you come to -2, and you plot a point. Okay, we'll do 1. We'll just keep on going up by 1. Okay? So y is equal to 3x, x is 1 in this case, minus 2. 3 times 1 is 3, so y is equal to 3 minus 2, which is just 1. Okay? So when x is 1, y is equal to 1. It's really that simple. So if this is 1, then this point is right here. And so you have enough points, really, just with 2, but I'm just kind of making a point. It helps you to know that this is what that line looks like. Again, fundamental skill that was probably learned in pre-algebra or somewhere around there, but I've seen high schoolers struggle with this. And if you struggle with it and it's unaddressed, then it will come back to bite you. And so I want to make sure you understand the very fundamentals of knowing how to graph a line. Even if you don't remember the y-intercept or the slope or different stuff like that, you can remember how to create an XY chart, because that helps you to understand that every point in an equation has an X and a Y, a two variable equation that is, has an X and a Y associated with it, okay? All right, so hopefully this little review of basic essential math skills that every high schooler should master has been helpful for you. Let me know if there are any other skills that you're having trouble with, and I'll do a quick review of them. Or if you have one of these skills in particular that you want me to go more in depth on, then I will record another video, or I'll share a link with you of where I've recorded that video in the past. Also, don't leave the video without liking, without subscribing, and then even without, make sure you also share with one of your friends or, you know, that type of deal. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.